The van sat alone, motionless on a narrow stretch of dirt near a tree-lined creek in Wyoming. Its white paint had dulled under layers of dust. The side door was cracked open, swaying ever so slightly with the wind. No movement. No voices. Just the hollow whistle of air moving through the brush. Inside, the signs of a journey were frozen in place, half-folded clothes on the seats, a notebook lying open with a blank page, a chipped enamel cup on the floor. But the van was empty. And the silence was deafening. This van was supposed to carry a story of love and freedom. Instead, it was about to become a crime scene. Gabby Petito was only 22. Bright-eyed, artistic, and full of life, she carried with her a love for adventure and a dream she chased relentlessly. She and her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, had turned an ordinary white van into a tiny home on wheels, setting out to explore the beauty of America's national parks together. Their plan was simple: live minimally, capture their journey, and share it with the world. They called it van life. And on the surface, it looked idyllic. Photos of canyons and forests, hiking trails, and sun-drenched selfies. Smiling faces in the middle of nowhere, always side by side. But underneath the filtered glow of Instagram, something darker was unfolding. Gabby had grown up on Long Island, the eldest of 6. She was fiercely protective, always sensitive to others' pain. Those closest to her described her as the kind of person who couldn't walk past a stranger crying without stopping to help. She wanted to be a travel blogger, someone who could live out of a backpack, telling stories that mattered. Brian had been her boyfriend for years. Quiet. Observant. They met young and stuck together through every major life decision. He wasn't into the spotlight the way Gabby was, but he followed her dream, helped build the van, helped map out their route. Their social media profiles painted them as perfectly in sync. But the images didn't capture the arguments. Or the slow unraveling. Their journey began in early July, heading west from Florida. Gabby documented it all, short clips of them making pancakes in parking lots, exploring Utah's red rocks, staring up at the stars. But as the weeks passed, the tone shifted. In one video, Gabby laughs and dances in front of the van. In the next, her eyes are puffy, her voice shaky, trying to explain that sometimes I just get really anxious. What didn't make it into the videos were the fights. The cold silences. The tears behind sunglasses. Or the way Brian would sometimes take her phone away in the middle of an argument. It wasn't obvious at first. But the signs were there. If you knew where to look. One summer afternoon, a bystander noticed a couple arguing near a grocery store. He saw a man hitting a woman. He called the police. Soon, body cam footage surfaced of Gabby and Brian pulled over on the side of a road. Gabby was crying. She said she was struggling with her mental health. She didn't want to get Brian in trouble. Brian stood off to the side, calm, quiet, almost detached. The officers separated them for the night. She kept the van. He went to a motel. No charges. Just a warning. And a missed opportunity. Gabby would never make it home. She posted her last photo just days later. A serene shot, somewhere near Grand Teton National Park. She looked tired. Still smiling, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. After that, nothing. No texts. No calls. No check-ins. It was as if she vanished into the trees. Then the van came back. Alone. Brian returned to Florida, parked the van in his parents' driveway, and said nothing. He refused to speak. His family said nothing either. No statement. No search. No concern. Gabby's family, hundreds of miles away, began to panic. They tried to call her. No answer. Days passed. Still nothing. On September 11th, she was officially reported missing. Suddenly, the story exploded. Social media caught fire with her photos. Police began searching wilderness areas across several states. Strangers online combed through travel vlogs, satellite imagery, anything that could help piece together her last days. One video from a travel family driving through Wyoming captured something chilling. Gabby and Brian's van, parked awkwardly off a dirt road. It was 6 p.m., daylight still stretching across the valley. No movement around the van. Just stillness. The search narrowed. 8 days later, search teams found a body near the spot where the van had been seen. It was Gabby. She had been strangled. Left in the elements for weeks. Just 22 years old. The country mourned her death as if she were family. Thousands of women saw themselves in her, a smiling girl who trusted the wrong person. In the beginning, the van had felt like freedom. Just two people, a mattress in the back, and the open road stretching endlessly in front of them. That's what they told themselves, that it was about discovery. Escaping the 9 to 5. Living simply, purely, far from expectations. But by the end, the van wasn't freedom. It was a trap. No doors to slam. Nowhere to walk away. Just four walls and a man who watched her closely, said very little, and carried a pressure that could fill the entire space without saying a word. Gabby had stopped posting videos in the last week of her life. The content dried up. No new blog entries, no updates from the road. What had once been a rhythm of smiling snapshots and playful footage fell into silence. Because the fights were getting worse. And no camera could capture what was happening behind the lens. People close to Gabby remembered the change. In texts and calls, she sounded exhausted. Not just physically, but emotionally, like she was trying hard to hold something together that kept breaking in her hands. She told her mother she was struggling. That Brian got frustrated easily. That he didn't like the way she talked to other people. That he needed space, and when he didn't get it, he'd explode. Sometimes, she made excuses for him. Other times, she sounded like she didn't believe them herself. Gabby's mom said it felt like listening to someone slipping underwater, still there, still talking, but getting harder and harder to reach. The signs weren't loud. That's the thing about control. It doesn't start with bruises. It starts with small things. With apologies that sound too practiced. With eye contact that breaks a little too quickly. With one person talking for the other, answering questions before they're asked. When the police pulled them over in Utah weeks before Gabby vanished, she blamed herself. Said she hit him. Said she had OCD, and he just got frustrated. But when officers asked her if she felt safe, she hesitated. Then smiled. Said she was fine. She wasn't. The van kept moving. Through desert roads, past gas stations, under empty skies. No witnesses. No escape. Somewhere in that final stretch, near the Bridger-Teton Forest in Wyoming, something snapped. Maybe it was a fight that escalated like the others. Maybe it was colder. More calculated. We'll never know the exact moment. But we know the aftermath. Gabby's body was found face down, curled into the dirt like a child trying to hide. She had been strangled. Her spine broken in the process. The medical examiner said she had likely been dead for weeks. Brian left her there, alone in the wilderness, and drove the van home. He didn't call police. He didn't notify her family. He went back to Florida and slipped into his parents' house as if nothing had happened. The van still had her things inside, her backpack, her clothes, her artwork. All of it packed into the shell of their dream, driven 2,000 miles without her. Neighbors saw him mowing the lawn. Quiet. Blank-faced. Gabby's parents called him. Texted. Pleaded for answers. There was nothing. No reply. No explanation. Not even an acknowledgement that their daughter was missing. By the time police arrived, Brian had already gone silent. He hired an attorney. Refused interviews. Refused questions. When the pressure mounted, he disappeared altogether, into the Carlton Reserve, a dense, alligator-infested wilderness near his home. Authorities launched one of the largest manhunts in the country. Helicopters. K-9 units. Dive teams. dozens of officers combed the swamp, day after day. Nothing. It was as if the earth had swallowed him whole. But Gabby's family wouldn't stop. Her face was everywhere now. Billboards. Television. Social media feeds. She became a symbol. Not just of a missing woman, but of a pattern too many recognized: abuse behind closed doors. The girl who smiled through control. The woman whose fear lived in the silence between posts. People around the world followed the case. Some saw their daughters in Gabby. Others saw themselves. The van life dream had collapsed into something brutal. Intimate. Real. Weeks later, investigators discovered a dry bag near a creek in the reserve. Inside, they found a notebook. A revolver. Remains. The skeletal fragments matched Brian Laundrie. His life had ended with a bullet to the head. But the notebook told the rest. In scrawled handwriting, he admitted to killing Gabby. Said it was a mercy killing. That she was hurt and he thought he was ending her pain. But there was no mercy in what he did. He choked the life from her. He left her in the woods. And he ran. What he wrote wasn't confession. It was cowardice disguised as sorrow. Gabby Petito didn't die in an instant. Her life was taken over time, in pieces. With each moment of isolation, each outburst he dismissed, each time she forgave what should have never been forgiven. What makes this story unbearable isn't just the ending. It's how close she came to surviving. How many times she might have reached for help but pulled back. How often we all look away from the quiet forms of violence until it's too late. The forest was quiet. There was no storm, no sound, no final scream when she died. Just the wind weaving through the pines. Just silence. Just a girl left in the dirt, someone's daughter, someone's best friend, a human being the world would come to know only after she was gone. And when she was found, everything changed. The grief hit first. Then the rage. Gabby's family didn't get to say goodbye. They didn't even get to know she was missing until her fiancé was already home, safe, silent, and shielded. In the days after the discovery, her mother, Nicole Schmidt, said it felt like waking up inside a nightmare that wouldn't end. One moment they were calling her phone, leaving voicemails they prayed she'd return. The next, they were identifying her remains. Gabby had been gone for weeks before the world even started looking. The body was just bones by the time they found it. The coroner's report confirmed the worst: manual strangulation, blunt force trauma. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't mercy. It was rage. It was control. It was murder. What makes it more haunting is the intimacy of the violence. Strangling someone takes time. It requires intent. You have to hold them there, face to face, breath to breath, until there's nothing left. It wasn't just the act that chilled the public. It was what followed. Brian Laundrie didn't vanish into grief. He didn't report Gabby missing, or try to help find her. He went camping with his parents. He went home. He took his time. And then he disappeared. The national outcry was immediate. Everyone had questions, but no one had answers. Why didn't Brian talk? Why didn't his parents help? Could Gabby have been saved? How many red flags were missed? Social media exploded. The story was everywhere. Every detail dissected. Every theory amplified. It became more than a murder, it became a moment. A mirror held up to how the world reacts to women in danger, especially women who smile through it. People wanted justice. But there would be no trial. No cross-examination. No final confrontation. Because Brian Laundrie was already dead. His body was found in a remote part of the Carlton Reserve, half submerged in water. He had shot himself in the head. Near him was a notebook, a revolver, and what was left of his bones. The confession scribbled inside was riddled with deflection. Claims of mercy. Denials of rage. But the evidence said otherwise. He had time to tell the truth. He chose not to. What haunted people wasn't just the brutality, it was the familiarity. So many saw pieces of their own lives in Gabby's story. The photos that masked the pain. The quiet apologies. The subtle warnings no one recognized until it was too late. Gabby's parents turned their grief into action. They launched the Gabby Petito Foundation, vowing to support missing persons cases, especially those overlooked or ignored by media and law enforcement. Because for every Gabby, there were thousands more. Women whose names never trended. Whose disappearances weren't national headlines. Whose families were left searching in the dark, praying someone would care. Gabby's face became a symbol, but that symbol came with questions. Why did it take so long for the world to notice she was missing? Why was her case prioritized while others weren't? What role did race, gender, and media bias play in the attention she received? These were uncomfortable questions. But they were necessary. Because behind the tragedy was a system broken in too many places. And while Gabby's name echoed through homes and headlines, thousands of missing Indigenous women, Black women, and people of color remained invisible. Their families screamed into the void. And the world stayed silent. Gabby's case lit up the injustice. But it didn't fix it. Not yet. In the years that followed, people didn't forget her. They visited the site in Wyoming where her body was found, leaving flowers, letters, and stones in her memory. The landscape that had once hidden the horror became a place of mourning. Her van, the symbol of a dream, now sat in evidence. Stripped of its romance. Its story rewritten. And the images of her, laughing in the sunlight, dancing in front of murals, stretching her arms across the horizon, took on new meaning. They were no longer just memories. They were warnings. But what makes Gabby's story endure isn't just the crime. It's the quiet desperation that lived between the moments. The way she tried to be everything for everyone. The way she tried to love someone who couldn't love her back without violence. The way she smiled while unraveling. She wasn't just a victim. She was a young woman trying to make something beautiful out of her life. And in the end, she paid the price for someone else's darkness. The lesson isn't just about catching monsters. It's about seeing the signs before it's too late. And yet, even now, her parents say they feel her. Not in a ghost story way. Not in the wind or the stars. But in the work they do. In the letters they receive from survivors. In the girls who say they left abusive relationships because they saw what happened to Gabby. They say her life mattered. And in the ripple she left behind, it still does.